Hello, welcome to Teaching an Online Synchronous Session. I'm Bean from William Penn University. Teaching an Online Synchronous Session, this video will be about specifics for teaching an online lesson. And when I usually term an online lesson, a synchronous session would be something that I sometimes say is face-to-face, or you want to maybe think of it as screen-to-screen. So this is with student and teacher logged on at the same time. Many of these things would also apply to an asynchronous session as well. So that would be something that you would record prior to the class and then sharing that for the students to watch on their own time. So tips for teaching synchronously online or face-to-face. What I usually recommend is do not set hard and fast rules for how the student should be viewing the online classroom. Your students have great variety in home life. So you don't want to force them into feeling uncomfortable due to the surroundings that they're forced to live in as children. So along with that guideline then, the first one I have is no rules on clothing except school appropriate. And I say don't be the pajama police. Okay? So are your students clothed? Does it meet the school requirements for decency? Those are the things you really need to be concerned about, not anything beyond those two things. If they're clothed, it's not revealing, it doesn't have indecent or inappropriate messages on it, then it's probably going to be okay. Second one is do not be strict on where they should be watching from. Don't say, okay, you have to be at a desk or at a table. Just keep it simple. I try to tell students to keep distractions to a minimum, so find a place that they can be alone or alone as possible, and then make sure that they're sitting up. Okay? It's all right if they're in their bed as long as they're sitting up and can be attentive to the screen, to the computer. You don't have control over what it is like in the home or what is available to the students. So they have the students have little control over that. So try to keep it as simple as possible, while at the same time making sure that they have some engagement with the screen. Sitting up usually works to do that. Third one that I have, remember that students are not operating with a mouse, nor do they have printers. Okay? They're going to most likely have either a tablet or a Chromebook or other device that they're going to use, and they'll have a touchpad only. So just keep that in mind. If there's something that you want turned in a blended environment where you're going to say, okay, you need to bring this to class. Students don't have printers at home. You're lucky that many of them even have a device and Wi-Fi to complete the assignments. So just assume that all they have available to them is their device. Just because they have internet access doesn't mean it's of good quality. Okay? There are many providers of internet service, all with varying quality and strength. There's many types of Wi-Fi routers in use as well. In some homes, you're going to have multiple students that are logging on at the same time. All of these factors can contribute to that quality and to how long or how well their Wi-Fi is going to be active, and that goes by session by session. It could be very spotty on one day and be really good on the next. You just need to be flexible and be understanding there. Students are still tired, hungry, thirsty, and may be going through extremely tough situations at home. And so the same things that you face in the classroom, they're going to be facing at home. In some cases, it could be worse. If they're fully online, they're not getting that lunch possibly that they get when they're at school, and their hours are going to be different as far as what they keep as far as when they go to bed, when they get up in the morning, etc. And so we should be mindful of those things. In the tough situations, one of the concerns I had back in March and when things were going online, for a lot of students, they may live in an abusive home or a home with parents that have their own problems or addictions, and those can be tough to deal with, and that doesn't change when students are online at home or in a blended or hybrid situation. And the last one is just try to be camera flexible. And this is a difficult one. I struggle with it too. At the college level, it's a little bit easier for us to say, you need to have a camera, you need to have it on. When we're dealing with adults, it's a little bit simpler. I agree that we want to see students. We want to gauge their engagement through that video. But I also understand that, as I mentioned before, the child could be living in a pretty tough situation. Some students may be living in a camper. I had a student once that lived in a tent. And so they may not want to be on camera. They may not want to show that their home is dirty, or that they are poor, or that their home is in disrepair. So, think through those situations. Be conscious of the students that may have some needs there with their video, that maybe it's better to have them with a dark screen or a profile image instead. Take them on a case-by-case basis and just have those conversations with students so that you can be conscious of those needs of students. These are just a couple of recent tweets that I thought were applicable to this video. The first one from Jim Bentley, and that was, I guess, back on the 7th of August here. These were his key takeaways. So he had already started teaching or instructing at a distance there, distance learning, and here's his key takeaways. Everything takes 3 times longer. I don't know about that. It definitely will take time, especially at the beginning as you're just learning how to navigate online learning or online teaching. Technology is not a silver bullet. That's correct. It's a tool. So, all of the things that you do in the classroom, you just need to find ways to use that technology to deliver those lessons in an online format. 1 to 5 instructional minutes to minutes of prep. Once again, I don't know about that. Maybe at the beginning it's going to be longer, but the more comfortable you feel with things and the more routine you can develop into your lessons with your online teaching, the smoother it's going to go. Kids are more polite than adults with tech snafus. This is definitely true. Kids are, as digital natives, they're not afraid to get on and use new applications. They're not afraid to make mistakes, and they have, and they just kind of figure them out on their own in most cases. And so, if you're going to make a mistake, just roll with it just like you would in the classroom, and find a solution, and the kids will roll with it. The next one, use 2 screens. That's a great advice if you can do it. If you can see my office right now, I've got actually 3 screens going right now with information that I'm using to instruct for this video, which makes it very handy. I know that's not possible for everybody, but if possible, 2 is definitely helpful. Expect the unexpected. This is no different than a classroom. Things are going to happen. Just be prepared to deal with them. And the last one, swear in your head. I don't think that's any different than in the classroom either. If you have some moments of frustration, just take a deep breath. Everyone's going to be all right, just like they are in the classroom. Make the necessary adjustments and move on. So just some advice there. This other one is actually from Chris Woods. I cut his picture and his name off, and I apologize for that. He notes that every video I've made for students includes me in it. Kids can't build a real relationship with someone they can't see or hear. It's great advice. It's why I've included my image down here in the center and moved it around the screen as I needed to. He talks about a quick tip. He bought a $12 tripod. It's a tabletop version of a tripod that he puts his phone on, and he uses iMovie and posts to the LMS. There's lots of different ways to do that, but screencasting, I have my image right on here as well. It really helps students when we're talking about relationships and connecting with students. Having your image on there is important for those asynchronous videos. Okay. So, a few tips here on running a successful synchronous session. These tips come from a couple different places. One of them is actually Boston College, and the other is just a web link that I came across on Twitter. The first one, think creatively about the types of learning experience you can create. You want to create an engaging experience just like you do in the classroom. Think creatively about how you can do that. Are there tools or applications that I can use to enhance that experience? Are there tools that can make my teaching more efficient when I'm online. All of those pieces are really important. Base your session around images, videos, and activities. Try to stay away from the slideshows. I'm doing a slideshow now, but this is asynchronous and it's a little bit different. But when you are in an active synchronous session, when you are screen to screen, use a lot of images, videos, activities, break students out, have discussions. Treat it as if you would a regular classroom as much as possible, and try not to do that lecture piece where their students are staring at a screen for 30 minutes. That's just not going to be effective. Use the chat feature in Desktop Share to share course content. You can put links right into the chat feature that students can go to. The Desktop Share would be similar to when you are on a Zoom session. So that's what they're talking about there. You're sharing your screen. You're able to share your content. And those are quick and easy ways to do it. Another tip for this would be to share it prior to the class. If you know you're going to be discussing an article and having students read it during class, share that with them beforehand. Maybe they'll get to it beforehand, or if you ask them to, have them read that article before you get to class. Then you can spend more time discussing it. So all of those pieces will help. Give students a simple activity to engage in while you make technological transitions. Great tip, something that you can do especially at the beginning when you're just getting started and you're going to take a little bit more transition time. Having some activities, using the breakout room, which is another tip coming up here, to have students interact while you get things ready for the next part of your lesson. And this is that breakout room tip. Punctuate your session with group time using breakout rooms to allow students to work through new concepts in focused collaborative settings. I've seen some suggestions where people will say use permanent groups for this so that students become familiar with who they're working with. I think that's a decent idea, but I would probably say semi-permanent. Rotate those groups a little bit. Students can get burnout from dealing with the same classmates time after time, but if you have the same groups, you can set them up each time. Maybe you do it by month. So September, it's this group. October, it's this group. And then students can work together in those breakout rooms. You can monitor all those breakout rooms, and it's easy to pop in and out and see what's going on and see what they're talking about. If you give them a task in those breakout rooms and give them a time limit, they're more likely to stay on task and get those things done. Share your recordings, images, and presentations. So just like with this asynchronous presentation, I'm going to share the presentation with you, and I'm going to share the video with you both. So you'll have the video and you'll have the actual slides that I'm sharing today. When you do that with a class, same thing. You can share from Google Slides very easily. And if there's any other documents that you're sharing or content that you're sharing via link, make sure those students have those links as well so they can view them outside of class time. That came from like I said, the Boston College CTE department, and they have some really great resources for online teaching, both with content and application or presentation of the content. And this is linked, so when you get the slideshow, you'll be able to click on that. They have a ton of information there for you. It works really well to get and learn new things. These last couple came from an online poster that I found. They obviously recommend using the mute all feature. So if you're on Zoom, instead of saying, Bobby, can you please mute yourself, or going through and muting individual students, they have a mute all feature. You can click on that, and then students can unmute themselves to speak if needed, or you can unmute them. But the all mute feature works very well. Poll and forms work great. It's a good way to collect information and to respond to it quickly. And there's Poll Anywhere, and there's a few other applications that you can get to do that. And then even Google Forms works really well, and you can get that data, put it in a graph form. You can go back to that idea of giving an activity. You could have them answer a poll on their understanding, break them out into groups to discuss something or to create something, a task. And then while they're doing that, you can look at the information that they provided via the poll or the form, and then you can use that information to adjust your teaching as you move forward. So, and the last one, do not lecture for longer than 20 minutes. And that's really important. When I say lecture, I'm talking about a slideshow type presentation. I actually tell my students when we make asynchronous videos, go shoot for 7 to 12 minutes. Okay, I'm going longer today on this, but we have a lot of information to cover. It's 7 to 12 is a good time, and really 5 to 9 maybe is even better when you're sharing some short videos or tutorials of slide type information. Okay. And that, like I said, came from online, Casal and Finley. Okay. Hope you found some good information there. And if you have any questions on online learning specifics, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you would have.